All right. Hey, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you happen to be, everybody. My name's Lynn Westover. I'm with the Recon Sniper Foundation, and we're actually here out in Montana, and we're going to do a little live stream show for you. We just finished up the Big Medicine Precision Rifle Challenge, so we're going to be bringing in a couple of the competitors and a few of the folks that participated in this amazing event for long-range shooting, so stay tuned. Okay, great. So our first guest that we have coming up to talk to us about the competition is Scott Satterlee. So Scott, let me click you over here. So thanks for agreeing to jump on and talk with us a little bit about the competition and stuff. So I think where I'll start is just so we can get to know you a little bit better. Let's actually start with what got you into precision rifle shooting to begin with?
Well, yeah, precision rifle shooting. I started when I was a kid. So my dad bought me my first hunting rifle when I was 12. We used to hunt out in eastern Washington, which is pretty wide open spaces, and it was just kind of like, you know, we'd just kind of work on shooting milk jugs and rocks and stuff, and further out. And then, you know, we didn't have a whole lot of the science. We didn't have the ballistic solvers or the laser range finders and stuff back then. So you were just guessing. And then, you know, with my military career, I was exposed to, you know, M24s and SR25s and the M109s and stuff like that. And I was just like, or 107s. And I was like, I liked that stuff, and I liked shooting long range. I was an assaulter my whole career, but I had a long range problem. So when I came out of a forward deployed unit that I was in, and I kind of took over an RTC, my career was basically, I was actualized as a E8, and I was kind of done being an action guy. I really missed shooting because the last 15 years of my life was, centered around shooting a bunch. So I started shooting high power again. You know, I did that when I was a kid, and then I started shooting high power, and then I went to my very first precision rifle match was the 2010 Mammoth Sniper Challenge, and this thing was just an absolute cold weather, small target, snowy, high wind beatdown, you know, and it's like, it just put the hook in me for some reason, and since then, you know, I've just been, I can't get enough of it. You know, I really like it. And we were talking earlier about it, and I do like the science of it. I like the applied math of it. I like the problems. You know, mm-hmm. I like to come up with solutions for, you know, more of a, you know, long-term, more dynamic problem. You know, I've shot a lot of pistol. I've shot some 3-gun stuff, and that's all very instantaneous. You mm-hmm. know, and this is more, you know, you almost have to wait for feedback. And like on a day like today, and the type of match that Chaz set up, I mean, sometimes you have to work really hard to get feedback, and there's, you know, and you kind of have to hedge your bets on where you expect to miss, right? You know, just to try to get a little bit of a clue as to where, you know, where your next shot is going, because the wind was just up and down and puffy, and, you know, from 6 to 14 miles an hour, and we have all this terrain, so we're getting updrafts and downdrafts. We're just getting some really weird stuff.
Yeah, I heard about the infamous the one stage with the T-Rex, and how it's really messing with people. Yeah. If I could go back up for just 1 second though, so specifically with your background, as far as your time in the military, because obviously Recon Sniper Foundation and the whole purpose, like our mission, is to bring awareness to the fact that we're a set of practitioners, you know, professionals, and I don't think it matters really where you served as far as like what service you served, because there's so many commonalities there.
Absolutely, there's commonalities about it. What you're out there for, what the purpose is.
Right.
You know, and it's one of those things where, you know, I was in a unit that had, you know, an assault element and a SO element, and we worked very close together on target, you know, and they typically would give us a lot of information on, you know, what to expect. We'd put them on target anywhere from instantaneously, like if we're doing a TST, to you know, we'd put them 48 hours in advance just to try to get some information. And and you know, that whole entire time, you know, they're 99% of their job is communications and an observation and being concealed, but you know, it comes down to that last 1%, and it has to be perfect.
Right.
And that's one of the hooks for me on this as well, is that you know, I was looking at it from an aspect that there's a chance I might go back to the force, you know, in more of a direct role, not just as a trainer or a you know, administrative guy, but just being able to, you know, the better I could shoot, I figured the longer, you know, I would probably survive, you know. And it was one of those things, and I've always looked at this kind of a sport as to that, you know, as, you know, this is the functionality of it. You know, basically it's, you know, it's on the clock. You get to look at, you know, your workspace prior to the event, which, you know, you know, if you're going to go into a gunfight, you'd want to do that too, right? I mean, we always train for the absolute worst scenario where you're just surprised by everything. But you know, if you're doing your job right, you're not really surprised by anything.
Right, so. Most probable versus most dangerous.
Exactly.
And some of the things you were talking about earlier when we were getting ready for the live stream for everybody else, you mentioned how, to you, that was the equivalent of doing a leader's recon.
Exactly, it's a leader's recon. I mean, you know, you would go up and take a look at your final firing point, final firing position before you ever got close to it. You'd know what you needed to bring forward. You know, if it was a tripod, or if it was a, you know, some sort of bag or a backpack, or, you know, you're going to use tripod and rear support, you know, and use a different a front support, wall, desk, chair, whatever. You know, there's all this stuff that you could use to make yourself sustainable and stable. And that's the thing, like, I'm more of a hunter now, and one of the things I've noticed is that direct crossover with you know, you're waiting for an animal to present the best possible shot. You might be there for half an hour. They have a vote, you know.
Yeah. When I think a lot of people don't realize with that, like, you're looking for the best shot as well for the animal. So if it's not a good shot.
Absolutely. If it's not a good shot, I mean, it just, you know, you're just not doing your job.
Right.
I mean, you're unethical for going out there. And I've been told, you know, shooting at an animal past 600 yards, what's the ethics of that? And I was like, what do you mean, what are the ethics of it? I mean, the bullet still has the energy it's supposed to have. If I put it in the right spot, it's going to be good, you know? And, you know, it just comes down to a different capability. Right?
It's a little more fair.
Right. It's fair if you're closer for the animal, but at some point in time, what I've noticed is the animals react a lot different when they don't know they're being hunted. If you're 100 yards away, they're spooky, they're agitated. You shoot them, they run. And the last few animals I shot went straight down. They didn't even know they were being hunted. So, I mean, it's in some ways it's more ethical, in my opinion. You know, so. You
know, touch it back, because we talked a little bit about the leader's recon aspect about it, but then there's also the fact, you know, going back to whether it's this, and I know I have the same conversations with the guys who are doing, you know, rifle or pistol, you know, like close quarters rifle or pistol or 3-gun, that, you know, there's those out there that make the argument of like, oh, well, this is not real, or so on and so forth. But I think, you know, the conversations we had specifically about ingress and egress and thinking about your next position and how you're getting to it, there is that same strategy there.
Absolutely.
Egress is so important.
Your exfil is almost more important than your infill, just because now you've exposed yourself. And what I liked about what Chaz did with this match, it was very complicated. There was very rarely just one position, and typically multiple targets. So, And of course we had lots of conditions. So it was a very, very well thought out match where we used props or fences or rocks or trees, stuff that you would find in the real world, and you could use to elevate yourself up to be able to see down and shoot down, or to be in a stable position to shoot up, and be able to transition quite a ways. I think one of our stages we transitioned across that whole mountain out there, which was pretty cool. And then you got different wind vectors on that as well. So, and just knowing, workspace management, data card management, wind management, and being able to, if you're back off, and you've got, say we're in an ORP, and then now we've moved up to a release point and we're going to our support by fire position, and the assaulters are going to their spot. I'm trying to collect as much data as I can because, I have one job.
Right.
Right. And, if I'm not thinking about it prior to getting there, if I'm not managing all this stuff, or if I don't even have the right equipment, I've heard of guys being like, well, I don't carry a tripod hunting, and I'm like, I won't go hunting without a tripod. I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
You want to set yourself up for the best chance of success.
Exactly.
It is a funny thing though, because it brings to mind for me, like, the one thing I always hated, because I was a force reconnaissance Marine and a scout sniper, and on one hand the equipment is great, but you find yourself toting around 100 pounds of lightweight equipment, and nothing drove me more crazy than taking something out in the field that I didn't end up using.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Drove me nuts.
Absolutely crazy, right? And but then again, you carry it because you're like, well, I might need this.
right. So you're constantly, because there's nothing worse too than being somewhere and you're like,
oh,
where's
my? That's right.
And you mentioned that too, as far as setting up for your final firing position, setting it up, right? You mentioned how if you have something, and it could be down to inches.
Yes.
Because if you when you're in position and you got that good stable position, and the chance of, like, maybe I don't have, because we consider things in a final firing position such as deflection, right? And sometimes you can't get around that, like, you have to account for it.
Right.
And so, well, now if I have to shift over here to grab something out of my drag bag or whatever.
That's right.
And
That's
then,
right.
And now you're off, and
you have to get back on. You have to reacquire. You have to get steady. And that was the thing that and we were talking about earlier too, was and this is kind of what I teach, hunters and some of my law enforcement guys that I teach, is that stable and sustainable. You have to be able to maintain that position for a long time, possibly.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You do a call out, or you're sitting on an animal for 30 minutes waiting for the right shot. If you're not set up for success, and you can't.
Legs are doing the singer sewing machine.
Oh man. Oh yeah. Or some of the positions Chaz had us in was, my neck's pretty jacked up, and we're in these like crazy uphill, downhill rifle position, uphill shot, prone position. I'm just like, this is terrible, and it's only 2 minutes long, and I'm like, God, this is awful.
Right.
And, if I was to do this over again, or if I was going to be, and then target size kind of determines. You had some pretty small stuff out there, so I'm going to opt for the most stable thing. But if I was going to sit in that position as a hunter, I'd probably use a tripod, just because then I could sit and I can maintain that position for an extended period of time without being completely fatigued.
So a couple of my last questions I got for you, and I know you and the missus are anxious to get home. You got a little bit of a drive ahead of you, but and also, who knows what the weather's going to do.
It's the Rockies.
These guys have been dealing with some weather out here, I'll tell you what, folks.
Oh, man.
But so kind of going back to the sport, because you're involved in a lot of different things within the sport. So, well, first of all, so who are you shooting for out here?
I'm shooting for Savage in the production division for the PRS, and my motivation behind that was I wanted to demonstrate that one of the big kind of I think myths of this sport is that you have to go out and you have to buy a $13,000 gun, you have to buy a $5,000 scope, a $7,000 rifle, you have to hand load, and you have to have this $1,500 tripod and like 9 different whiz-bang bags and stuff like that. $30,000 later, you're like, you don't even know if you like the sport or not. So what I've got is I've got a Savage 110 Elite.
Okay.
in 6 Creedmoor, and I've got a Night Force NX8 2.5 to 20, and that represents about $3,000.
Are you making adjustments in mils or minute of angle?
Mils.
Mils.
Yeah, and you could do minutes. It really doesn't matter.
It boils down to what you like, I
Yeah.
think.
Mils are simpler, so mathematically, and I'm a dumbass, so I need to. Sorry for cussing, but I can't do quarters.
Yeah.
Let's see, quarter, half, 75. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd rather just point ones.
It's funny because and I'm gonna throw Chaz under the bus here for a second, but so I had my rifle. On all this is just a short-barreled Model 700 out of the box, heavy barrel with a Leopold Mark IV on it. Now the thing is now while I haven't shot in competition, I'll be honest, and he's like, oh, you got to get that out of here. We'll put this up here. Hey, that's fine, dude. But I got all totaled that thing with scope and hardware, $1,200.
Right.
And so, but I also know for a fact I can hit steel at the right size to just about 1,200 with it. So it's like the old saying goes, right? It's not the dope on the gun; it's the dope behind the gun.
The dope behind the gun. That's right.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I remember you talking about that as far as the points and
Right.
everything like that. So,
And it's the growth. I think honestly, that's kind of the growth. That's the growth curve in this sport, right? How do we get more people involved in the sport? Is we demonstrate that you can go out and you can compete,
right.
and you could do very well. I think I took 6th. I didn't shoot very good today. I was leading yesterday, but I just kind of sucked today, but made the bad decisions. But anyway, you can actually go out and do pretty darn well with a out of the box rifle, and that's the whole point.
So that would be a good piece of advice for those who are interested in getting into the sport.
Yep.
You don't have to. And in fact, it's probably better off because you should be focusing, like we always say, fundamentals.
Get the fundamentals down, get a whole bunch of trigger pulls in, and that was the thing. I shot prime factory ammo, so I didn't even reload for this match.
Did you cull your ammunition at all? Did you weigh it out or plat it or anything?
Nope. I just pulled it out of a box and shot it.
Gotcha.
Just like you would 118 LR or anything else. Just pulled it out of a box, put it in the magazine, and shot it.
Copy.
And then, and then on the international side of the house, so I'm also, as far as involvement in the sport, I'm with the executive, or I'm God, my brain is fried, but I'm on the NRL staff as the director of match operations.
Cool.
And then I'm also involved with the international side of the house. We have South Africa, a guy Rob Ramsden, Spain, Germany, France, England, Ireland, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand. This is starting to explode.
Nice.
And a lot of I've actually been to Ireland and South Africa the last couple of years shooting with these guys, and it's fun to see where they're at and how fast and how far they've come in a relative short period of time. So
yeah, I look at it as this is for firearms enthusiasts. This is like equivalent to golf in the way I did, but the way I qualify that though is because you have different kinds of shooting too. You have short range with pistol, carbine. You got 3-gun, and the way I look at it is so the level of practitioner that those guys are is they're the guy that's sitting out there doing 900 chip shots onto the green, and so that there's definitely a strategy and a methodology behind that.
Oh yeah.
But it's not enough to say that when you're doing precision rifle shooting that you're trying to hit from the pro tees to get it down the fairway as far as you can get it. You're actually hitting from the pro tees trying to get a hole-in-one every single time.
You're trying to hit something really small from really far away, and the wind matters.
Right. Did you have to deal with any high angle cosine today or any high angle stuff?
We did yesterday, 15 degrees.
Okay.
Yep. And actually, one of the things, I'm pretty good friends with Brian Morgan and he does Hat Creek training, and we do a hunting class out there, and I think our final shot is 794 yards and 37 degrees down angle. So it's one of those things, and with that, we were learning, that some of the traditional stuff that we learned as youngsters with the rifleman's rule, it doesn't work. Co-signing the distance is kind of a flawed thing. So
Right. Yep.
Which is kind of recent, it's been one
We
of
could
those
probably
things.
do 2-hour podcasts just talking about that.
Yes, we could.
Which I'll reach out to you and would love it if you could come on for future stuff, or maybe we could do a couple distant Skype stuff and talk about some things. I know, for this one we won't have too much about that from the actual match. Yep. But that's something we're going to look at. We are pulling stuff, so maybe we'll try to put a highlight reel together for that stuff, and maybe we can have you back on and talk about those things if you're okay with that.
Yep, absolutely. And one of the things about this match too, if you guys are ever on the fence about coming here, I've been here twice. This is the second year of the Big Medicine, the Vortex Big Medicine, and this is by far the most scenic match you'll ever attend. The only one I've ever attended that was even remotely close to this is the Telluride match that was hosted a couple years ago, and the mountain on the Coors can, like we were looking at that all day, shooting. It was freaking amazing.
It's almost distracting at a point. I got to get back to work.
Yeah, and that's what this is too. This is pretty distracting because we're looking at the backside of we're looking at the Great China Wall on the backside of the Rockies, where the Scapegoat Wilderness and the Bob Marshall Wilderness are. So Chaz has done a great job with this match. It was tough, it was fair, and it was a challenge, which is really neat. And a lot of, you can go to match, and I run a couple matches, a Night Force match and a Hornady match, and they're geared as challenges as well, and I'm aiming for the winner to shoot about 75%. So it is a little bit of a beatdown. And I think he hit that number with this match, is about 70 to 75% for the winner, which is, it's good. You're going to get drummed a little bit. And you're not. I don't think there was a single feel-good stage out there where it was like, man, that was awesome. I just cleaned that. No, none of those.
Yeah, some of the comments. It's funny. All the other competitors coming in. Every single one, to a man, woman, and child, because we had multiple different levels in types of competitors competing the last couple days, but not a single one was I didn't see anybody walk in and be like, oh yeah, it was awesome, I did awesome, I hit every single, everybody, their first thing that they opened up with was where they could have done better off the bat, even though they may have had great stages leading up to it. And it's funny, across even within the industry or across the sport in general, whether it's rifle, pistol, 3-gun, so on and so forth, you see that. And I think that's the level of perfectionist that you're seeing with individuals there. Interesting side note, I was talking to a very good friend of mine, and he's actually the chief instructor out at the Army Scout Sniper Schoolhouse. And so we're looking at maybe trying to do something like this for that in the future. So I'll keep you posted on that, because I'm sure you'd be interested. Yeah, I
appreciate that. And thanks for what you're doing for the guys downrange and the sniper community. It's good.
Yeah, it's important to us. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the level of intellect and skill. It's not just pulling a trigger. There's so much more to it, and so you're definitely a testament to that, as far as you coming out and representing both your service and your time in and things like that, but even now as just a competitor, and I don't mean just a competitor, but you know what I mean. I think it's really cool, and we're hoping to see the sport kind of get some more observation.
Yeah, get traction, and try to bring some of the stuff that we're learning here in a little microscope that helps you guys out downrange. That's it. That's the biggest thing for me now, is just if I can take something and learn something and give it to some guy it might save them or save their buddy downrange, I'm good with it. Yep.
Excellent.
Yep.
Well, how long's your drive back home?
About 6 hours.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's not too bad. We're just in Spokane.
Okay. I'll be shooting past you. I'm heading out towards just on the east side of the Cascades. So.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, we'll definitely link up. So.
Sweet.
Excellent. So definitely appreciate your time. Everybody, Scott Satterlee. What's your business again?
It's SSTAC, or Scott Satterlee Training and Consulting.
Okay, so definitely look him up, check him out, check out the stuff he's doing in competition, but also, obviously.
I put some videos out on YouTube once in a while, so.
definitely.
Yeah.
We'll check you out. So
All right.
again, Scott,
Thank you, sir.
appreciate your time, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Waiting on, just hold tight for a second, but waiting on the line, we got Mike Keeble. Mike Keeble is the Team RSF captain, so I'm going to bring him on to just kind of talk about, give everybody who's watching maybe a background as to the Recon Sniper Foundation and specifically what the thought process is behind it, and so on and so forth. So Mike Keeble, Reserve Recon guy, also does some stuff with law enforcement and is one of the main players within the Recon Sniper Foundation for these sports and trying to bring awareness to the sports. So Mike, glad to have you on, bud. What's going on, man?
What's up, dude? How you doing, Lynn? What's up, dude?
I'm doing all right, bud.
How you doing, Lynn?
You're missing it out here. It's absolutely beautiful out here. But I was wondering if maybe you could start by just kind of giving everybody an idea as to the significance of what it is that when starting up Team RSF that you guys were trying to achieve.
Sure. I mean, so the guys getting together in precision rifle, actually, and it was a couple guys transitioning from the Marine Corps, and recent tours in Afghanistan, and just having some trouble, adjusting, and loved shooting, got into competitive shooting, precision rifle, and changed their lives. Doing it on the side, the loading your ammunition, the science behind that, and then learning a completely different style of shooting within the sport. And then I got a phone call because I did something similar with pistol and USPSA, and a good friend of mine, he was my JTAC in Afghanistan. He's my son's godfather. He was like, "Hey man, we're starting up this thing. You were saying that the pistol shooting stuff has helped you out. So let's make a team for Recon Sniper Foundation." So that's how it started. And the last 3 years, have been difficult. But it's paying off now. We have the leadership, set in place for multiple teams, and the team has evolved from precision rifle and USPSA to 2-gun tactical, 3-gun. MVG tactical matches are popular now. We started an athletic team, so endurance racing, CrossFit. A guy reached out to us and was like, "Hey, I had the same experience with skydiving." So we started a flight team. And then, another good friend of mine, he did 2 tours to Iraq back to back, like literally back to back, didn't come home. He's into mountain biking. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. I want to support that and get you, going to the big matches, supporting the organization.
I wish I had that video, by the way, on here. Next time I'll be a little better prepared. But yeah, that wipeout on the mountain bike, that was because he was smoking. Down that hill.
Well, it's funny, and sitting where I'm at and seeing all the competitors over the last 3 years, people get into each one of these sports, and everyone's kind of like tiptoeing in, and they're kind of just figuring it out. And then, I mean, as short as like 6 months into it, I mean, they're either their hair's on fire when they're shooting, or Jordan's flying down the side of a mountain on his bike, and you see the tree coming, and you're like, "Oh no!" And he's good. He gets up, but again with the flight guys, you see him kind of getting into doing the flips and the tricks, and dude, it's just awesome watching all the competitors through their journey.
Awesome, dude. Well, I appreciate you, and please stick around for a little bit more because I got a couple other guests I'm going to bring on, but definitely want to learn more about the Recon Sniper Foundation and why the things that we're trying to do as far as within the sports we're using to try to build awareness and support for the foundation to help some of the other projects that we do, the more meaningful and sustaining projects that are occurring within RSF. So I definitely appreciate you taking time on your Saturday. I know you finally had a little bit of time off with the kids. But yeah, stick around, and you guys are going to get to hear a little bit more from Mike here in a little bit. But right now, I got waiting in the wing. What's your last name? Kenyon. So the infamous Monica Kenyon. Okay, so let me see if I can get this right. So Monica, during this competition, did you compete, or were you working as an RO?
I'm an RO.
You were an RO.
Yep.
But I've heard you do compete as well, right?
I've shot one match last year just for fun. It was
just
good.
for
just for fun, because I talk a lot of smack, and so this was really an opportunity for me to like take it. You know what I'm saying? I give it bad to everybody that shoots. So this was an opportunity for me to squat up with some of these guys. Yeah,
heckler.
So I took it, and I deserved it. It was hard. It's way harder than it looks.
Yeah.
This sport is no joke. It
Okay.
takes a lot of dedication, passion. It's.
So let's start there. So what was it that got you involved in these sports to begin with?
So my fiance Seth is a shooter. He's
Okay.
here with me.
Shooter and a looter.
Yeah.
He's got the look for sure. That's why I'm on my P's and Q's. Besides the fact that I'm pretty sure my wife is also watching this. So I fear no man but one woman, and that's my wife.
That's
right?
cute.
It's truth.
So Seth met Chaz after he bought a 6.5 Creedmoor, right? Because he wanted to do long distance or more long distance hunting, right? And so we were living in Conrad at the time, and he met Chaz, who had the range out in Dupuyer, and they hit it off, and Chaz did a match. And so I didn't even attend one for, I don't know, probably the first 3 or 4 matches that Seth went to. I just heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went out to one in Three Forks, and I was just there to see what it was all about. And I sat behind some glass and kind of watched. And then the next match, they needed an RO.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of hesitant because I really didn't think I would be good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed it a lot. It didn't take very long for me to warm up, to people. I'm pretty extroverted. and it's really, really fun. It's so cool to see people come out and put so much time and energy into this.
Mm-hmm.
And then to see the kids. They got the Millers back here with their little girls. I've been watching them now for almost 3 years.
I was going to bring that up too, because, for you being, the fairer side of our species, how does that make you feel when you see not just young kids getting into it? Because I heard these kids that showed up to this were holding their own.
Unbelievable.
Like something.
Unbelievable.
But then seeing the young ladies come out here and get into it and absolutely dominate.
If they were my daughters, I would not be worried about a thing.
Yeah.
Right? And I think, okay, I have an 11-year-old son,
Mm-hmm.
right? Watch out for them girls.
Well, that'll learn you, right? That'll learn
Yeah,
you.
no, it's really great, I like to see more women enjoying the sport. And Montana, I think it's fairly common.
Right.
If I were from somewhere that maybe girls weren't as interested,
Mm-hmm.
I was raised in the mountains. I was a tomboy my whole life.
Right.
So I've known a lot of girls who were kind of the same, hunting and fishing.
Exactly.
Loving every day, right? That's what they say.
You're in
But
God's country,
It's incredible, right? I mean, have you ever seen anything like this?
Aside from being here, no.
No.
I mean, besides going to, I've been all over. So everywhere's, I've been to places where you could call equivalency to, like, Colorado, Alaska. I've been all over the African continent and things like that. And there's amazing vistas, but every place definitely has its own kind of special flair to it.
Yep.
So that's really cool. The thing that's interesting that I noticed talking about women specifically in shooting sports, because for a long time after I got out, I was involved in a lot of different like shooting instruction, and mainly it was for like defensive type stuff. And I happened to have a opportunity to get involved with a group called the Well-Armed Women. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but it's a really cool organization. It's a national organization, and the whole premise behind it is about shooting sports and also the defensive purposes for women, and really getting an education in shooting. And I tell you what, them ladies, even if I packed a lunch and brought some friends, I would not want to venture into dark alley.
Really?
Yeah, they hold their own. So
Yeah, I think that's really important. I've contemplated taking a self-defense class. Never done it personally, but I do think it's important.
Right.
So that's awesome.
Well, and the thing too that I noticed specifically with women when it comes to shooting is whereas men differ, not that women aren't A-type personalities, but I think, to be fair, there's a little bit of an ego there. So, we used to have a saying whenever I would do different shooting packages in the Marine Corps, and it was like, hey, keep your eyes on your own paper.
Right.
Because a lot of times we're like, oh, well, how am I shooting? And you look over at somebody else's paper and you're like, damn, and you're not focusing really on what gains you're doing.
More competitive, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But the thing I noticed specifically about women is that they are intentional and focused on what it is they're doing and how they're doing it. And I found a lot of times that it was a lot easier to progress when we were trying to progress skill levels, because they are, they're not afraid to strip away like, hey, how am I looking right now? It's more about like, well, what's my performance?
They don't have an alpha complex.
Yeah, it's not, I don't want it to sound the wrong way, but it's like, not for my experience that I've had, it's like for the guys who when they start getting into competition style shooting, that's when you see that difference in it, and then it starts to level out across the board.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm speaking mainly from experience of kind of beginner, basic, intermediate, moving up into that higher level skill level. So, well, awesome. So are you definitely gonna come out and participate next year? Are you gonna be an
absolutely.
RO? Or
I mean, I assume they're inviting me back. Like.
Well, from what I heard, I'm sure they will, because you guys definitely set a tone there when I was trying to figure out, okay, hey, what are we going to do for the live stream and stuff like that? They're like, oh, you got to talk to Monica.
Well, no, they're having another match in September. Is it here though? Yeah, so I'll be here in September.
Okay, cool.
So hopefully, we don't get snowed on. We'll see. September should be great. But absolutely, any chance I get to participate, I'd like to shoot it. But I'm too much of a sissy to carry all that gear up the mountain.
Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah, it gets to be a little bit.
That was quite the hike yesterday. It was quite the hike. So, but worth it. It was great.
Awesome.
It was great.
Well, is there anything that you feel like you'd like to talk about, or anything that you'd like to bring up for the for the good of the order? Or?
I mean, not really. I really, really appreciate all of the time that Chaz and Dawn have put in. Dawn works so hard to take care of everybody. They're the only hosts that have fed us every day. Like, that's worth something. They are so gracious and kind. The kids are fantastic. They'll bend over backwards, whatever it is you want. They're going to do it for you. And there's a lot of great shooters out here that I enjoy seeing. So, it was just really, really nice to see everybody and hang out and, enjoy the sunshine. So, yeah, it was great.
Excellent. Awesome. Yeah, definitely. They definitely put on a good spread out here, I noticed, and they were very accommodating. And, too, with like everything that's been going on with the thing that shall remain nameless.
You shall not be named.
But the more specifically, like, the fact that we still had the turnout for this event that we did. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of our Canadian brethren weren't able to make it because of the travel restrictions and stuff. But and that was one of those things, because of the lack of participation. They could have canceled it, but there were so many people that had already committed travel and plans and so on and so forth. And the fact that this still was able to take place is.
And that's not Chaz, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this is a part of him. When he says he wants an epic match, he means it. And next year, this will pale in comparison. I don't know what he has up his sleeve, and it kind of terrifies me. Because
you heard it here, folks. You heard it first here. So
if you want a good time, come out here and support Chaz and Dawn and Warhorse Development. It's fantastic.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, so what kind of a drive are you guys looking at after?
It's about 2 hours. Yeah, it's not so bad. We're just in Great Falls.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent.
It's
awesome.
not bad.
Well, I reckon I should let you guys get on the road.
Hey, thanks,
So, but I definitely appreciate you taking the time to. It's nice to finally get to meet.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you too.
This one, like, hey, more power to you, brother. It takes good balance. My wife's the same way. Like I said, I fear no man, but I do fear that woman. That is for sure. So she is a force to be reckoned with. So, awesome, excellent. We'll definitely appreciate your time coming out, and I look forward to seeing it next year and seeing what there has to bring. So, Mike, are you still there, bud?
What's up, dude?
Not too much, man. Let me just scooch over to you for a second. So maybe you could kind of elaborate a little bit. Thanks, guys. Elaborate a little bit, like what are some of the initiatives, like as far as with the shooting and things, and other, like not just family involvement, but involvement for former service members and stuff. Like what are some of the aspects of that, being a part of Team RSF, what does that bring with it? You there? Am I losing signal?
Back up to the previous question you asked as well. Lynn, you got me?
Yep, I got you, bud.
Okay. So, traditionally, veteran nonprofits focus mainly on, reactive type of situations. And unfortunately, most of the time, by the time someone reaches out to us for that level of support, it's usually catastrophic or near catastrophic. The veteran is in a state that is, not in a good place at all. And that is primary mission to support veterans transitioning, out of the military and have that reactive, financial support or networking available. And then the other side of it, and what the team evolved to is the proactive side of veterans transitioning out. So, that's kind of the big distinction between the two parts of the organization that a lot of people don't really understand, about what we do and why we do it, so.
Sorry, Mike. I was just getting our next guests.
No, you're good. I saw him.
Yeah, the Miller family all set up. So, can you maybe kind of touch on that? Like, how do you feel like for some of the members in RSF? How by especially because we get competitors and participants of all shapes and sizes that come through, but like as far as like them having the ability to have that kind of fellowship and go get away for a little bit, how have you seen that as an effect on the overall like mental health and well-being for individuals?
It's huge. I mean, through the matches and the competition, and it doesn't matter what sport it is. You're going to come across a veteran. You're going to come across, a veteran who was probably in your division. And then you're going to meet a whole ton of civilians who will crush you in that sport. And a common trend I've seen is guys who get out, they go back to wherever they grew up, and they either have no friends or they only associate with or talk to veterans. And unfortunately, most of the time, those guys might be hundreds of miles away. So again, through the matches, you'll meet other veterans, and every match I've been to, I'm going to meet a Marine, and we'll good conversation, but more importantly, it's meeting those civilians who you have a common language now, and they could be a doctor, they could be a dentist, and they are deadly, at their craft. So that's a huge benefit of it. But the main thing is with the teams is, how do you build a team that is all inclusive, incentivizes, yet incentivizes the people that come to us, the people that come to us, as well. And that's been the biggest challenge, I would say overall. To me, it's building the networking. And we do what we can to support, whoever needs equipment or discount codes or whatever. Like, we do the best that we can to provide that. But to me, the bigger, more valuable aspect by coming onto the team is that network through the Discord and the communication, across all teams.
Cool. So I really appreciate you kind of bringing it down. It actually is a really good segue for us to the next guest we have kind of hanging out. This is actually a whole family we got here, Mike. This is the Miller family. So it's a mama and a papa and two young ladies. And, you know, we were just talking to Monica about a force to be reckoned with. Well, this is the whole family. So, you know, you hear, I forget the name of the TV show, but it was like a whole family, and they kind of made the joke that they were like a football team because there was like 11 of them. I forget the name of it, but it's kind of the same thing. So it's really kind of interesting too to see with this whole thing the family involvement, because I know for you as well, you've involved your own wife and your kids in the sport, and you've found an opportunity to kind of get that common ground, common bond, which you don't happen to get a lot of times in the military. So. Yeah, man, I appreciate it, Mike. I'm gonna jump back over and we're gonna talk to the Millers, but if you don't mind, stick around and we'll come back and talk about a few more things. So
cool. Yep. All right, later.
Yeah. So sitting next to me, I got the Miller family. So if everybody, and yeah, you're kind of squeezed in there, so you're good. So if everybody can introduce themselves. So we'll start with you, young lady. What's your name?
I'm Gwen.
Gwen. That's a beautiful name. And then
I'm Ari.
Ari.
I'm Ann.
And Ann.
And I'm Eric.
And Eric. So Gwen, Ari, Ann, and Eric. So wow, nice to meet you guys. Ladies, I heard you two were out there whooping it on, and I even heard over here when you guys were kind of waiting on the couch here, my little impromptu green room, that you guys were having a little debate as to who did what. So did you find out, like, who out of the two of you, who was the better shooter today?
I beat her by a couple points. So.
Okay. And so for you guys both, like, what was the toughest course or the toughest stage of fire for you guys today?
Today?
Or over the last couple of days? It was just that easy for you, huh?
No, it was all pretty hard.
Which was the biggest challenge for you?
Challenge, the one off of the side of the tree, the prone, where you had to shoot off the tree, and it was.
So stage 15.
Yeah.
There's stage 16, where you had to shoot up a hill from a downward position
Oh yeah.
and push the
That one
barrel
was
up the
hard.
hill
That
with
one was really
with
hard.
crosswind and lift.
Oh, wow.
16 for me as well.
The
Was
same
it?
one.
Yeah.
Okay, so that one was kind of the linchpin for you guys.
Yeah. We both zeroed it, and it was our only stage we zeroed today.
Okay, so here's the next question. Did you beat Mom and Dad?
No.
No? Oh.
But Mom just barely beat them. they're getting good, and Mom had a tough weekend, and the kids gave the mom pep talks along with several other squad members several times. It was pretty awesome.
So let me ask this. Who had the high score on the long range stage today, going out to 1,200 or 1,400 yards?
That was you.
I did.
Ari,
I got 7 points.
7 points at 1,200 yards.
So you had 7 hits in 9 rounds, correct?
Yeah.
1,200 yards, folks. So for those of you that may not be aware, and I have a North Carolina public education, so I'll spare you from taking my shoes off to do the math for you, but 1,200 yards, that's 12 football fields away. That's an amazing. What power were you shooting?
What
On your scope?
power? Were you all the way up or about midway?
About midway.
About midway. So what were you sitting there around 5, 6 power?
12 to 14?
12.
Yeah.
12 to 14? Oh, okay. Wow, that's still pretty, I mean, at that range. How hard was it for you to get on target with that distance?
It wasn't that hard because I knew where they were before, so all I had is like points where I knew where to start with me.
So for you guys, when you decided to kind of get your daughters into this sport, like what was how did that process work? Like where did it, how did it happen? Because I'm curious.
Where did this whole thing happen? You have to take a step back even further. When we first had Gwen, the original vacation that Ann and I had after being married was going to one of Carl Taylor's matches in Colville, Washington. In those years, it was in Kettle Falls.
Okay.
If you don't know Carl, he's part of your association
Yeah,
anyway. that was where Ann and I started this whole game. And when the girls came along, as they started growing over the years, when they hit 3 or 4 is what we do. So the girls were brought into the fold with 22s and started in it. I don't know how to, from there it was when they were willing to go and shoot, they've shot. And we have shot nonstop all those years. And when they were old enough to own their own 223s and start being consistent at 300, 400, and 500 yards, and were able to shoot some positions, and they went to their first one-day club-type matches and started shooting those at 7 years old.
Wow.
And they shoot 3-position air rifle all winter.
So we went from like a date weekend to family vacation as we added kids, and it suddenly shifted to 4 of us.
That's got to be so cool as a family to kind of all be able to be into the same thing, and it sounds like you ladies are excelling at it. Like, I'm interested to see like what happens here in the next 10 years or so, because I think about the level of shooting that personally I've had to do in other individuals that were in my background, and we did it as a profession, but like, you had to develop those skills if you're lucky as early as 18 or so, and then that learning curve is that steep, and you guys started out at 3 and 4. Wow.
There are several kids in this organization these days that have started out young, so all of us have lots to be concerned about as far as who's going to be the top shooters in the next 4 or 5, 6 years, and it's none of us that have been around for many years.
Well, never forget, girls, that you learned from somewhere. You started somewhere. If it wasn't for mom and dad, then, so don't get too big for your britches. But
yep, there's always a game to play.
Yeah.
It's always no. Go ahead.
What's your favorite part of it? Why do you keep coming out?
My favorite part of matches is the competition. I love competition, and that's single. So it's based on how you do. So that's my favorite part.
Nice. Excellent.
And I like beating the boys. So.
You hear that, girls? No, it's really good, and I think it's nice to see that, like, it's probably something that doesn't get a whole lot of observation outwardly, not only, whether it's across genders or even the fact too, like, there is a lot of hyperbole around firearms, obviously, and for some reason, for some things, for good reason too. There's a lot of respect and responsibility that comes with it, right? But I think it definitely shows a level of, well, it's about how how you learn and how you practice, and it's no different than anything else. It's about having your head in the game, right?
I think it becomes a training and an understanding and responsibility issue on the family side. Our household has firearms everywhere. They have always been there. We don't have issues with kids with firearms. They're not a scarce thing. They're not my God, I got to go try that because I'm never allowed to. You teach them early. They're indoctrinated into firearms. They understand what they are. We don't have safety issues with them. We don't have concerns.
Yeah.
These girls at 5 and 6, when we were running matches, would walk down a line of shooters and open bolts and tell people that their bolts need to be open when they're sitting on the fire line, because that's how you keep a firearm safe.
It was really humbling for some of our competitors not used to a 5-year-old safety officer.
Well, so that's funny, because that was one of the comments I heard when I got out here, because I got in real late last night and I was talking around to different competitors, and I said, so how was that first day? And that was the first word that at least 5 or 6 people brought up when they described it. It was humbling. So, and I think too, when it comes down to safety as well, that for those watching this to understand, well, it doesn't take a whole lot to be humbled in that. So that's really cool that you girls kind of show that responsibility and have that level of, at such a young age, that level of enthusiasm too. So it's pretty cool. So what's next for you guys? What's your next competition?
July, you go to Hart Butte in Wyoming.
Yeah.
I believe that's the next one. Then they'll probably shoot the NRL match here
Okay.
for Chaz's in September.
And then we've got
And
our own
then-
match in August.
Yeah, we'll host a match in August, and then we'll go to the Karstetter and shoot the Karstetter in Washington in October. So
And do you guys all like spot for each other? Like, do you sometimes take turns and like, okay, like today I'm gonna go with dad, or no, I'm gonna go with mom, or sometimes it's kids against parents, or how does that work sometimes?
They shoot on the team matches, they shoot as a team now.
Okay.
So they're old enough, and then Eric and I have shot as a team. It wasn't always that case before. We'd take one-on-one.
Right.
But now that they've progressed enough and they're comfortable, so we'll help some, but really it's not a lot, which is kind of crazy, really. Like maybe an initial wing call or helping them get on a target, but that's kind of it.
yeah, Gwen was kind of on her own most of this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
She had her open. We would give her an initial wind call,
Mm-hmm.
and she was expected to stay ahead of the wind or stay on the wind. There were some cases where we provide a little more input when things get goofy, but for the most part, they're getting good enough now that they can call their shots, they can watch the shots, they can see the impacts and make corrections for themselves. There's some safety issues, like some of these multiple position stages where they're still not big enough to be able to grab a rifle and a bag.
Right.
So we'll move bags for them
Right.
in order to maintain firearms discipline,
Right.
make sure the rifles stay pointed in the correct position or downrange. But that's about it anymore. So
Cool.
if that makes sense, it's interesting. It's a
So I
big
got an
change.
off-the-wall question for you and your wife. So for me, I've had quite a few spotters, and it's a very special relationship that you have with your spotter. And the reality is by doctrine, at least in my community, the spotter is actually the senior individual in the team. And sometimes, though, you have to have that give and take. And there's been times where I've had to roll off my gun in a real situation and hand it over to my spotter for whatever reason because, hey, I'm so tired, or there's a lot of things that come into play. So for you two as a couple, and obviously this is competition, but how do you feel like, do you feel that being related, that helps you with your communication, or do you feel like maybe that by doing this as an extracurricular activity, it bleeds over into your communication in your home life and things like that?
I think it's actually helped a lot because he's really short, sweet, to the point. So get the basic message across. I tend to expound on the issue a little more, and so it's been good for me to get really critical information across fast in a clear, understandable manner. And then for him, he's learned to explain enough that, I need topography keys, or I need something to key off of. I need a little more detail than the V and the horizon line. So it's actually helped, I would say helped more than hindered by far our marriage actually and relationship, just because we've learned how to communicate, in 2 minutes, 30 seconds or whatever it is. Then you go home and you still have to figure out who's doing, whose turn is it to do dishes, or how are we going to get through the day-to-day household stuff. And so it's probably been the single biggest help for us being married, has been communication and working as a team. Or if somebody gets cocky and thinks that they can do it alone, is the spotters without the shooter or the shooters without the spotter, you're kind of screwed.
Doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's been a really good teachable moment too.
So
us.
so definitely that level of patience that you utilize in the sport definitely carries over. Like I know I found that with me and my wife, and I teach human behavior, so it's one of the things that it's very noticeable. Like probably the easiest way I can express it is, like, if my wife gives somebody directions, she's like, hey, you're gonna go down a little bit, and then you're gonna see this, and then across the street this is there, and then you go left at the McDonald's there. Whereas I'm like, no, you go northbound on I-5, and then you're going to take exit 73 here, and then you're going to go approximately 1.5 miles. And people respond to different levels and different types of information. So it's to me it seems as like, well, that's a good challenge, especially if you're, I know it was maybe not so much with this match, but I know with other matches, and definitely for me, other types of shooting, like when you need help getting talked on there, sometimes those extra different levels of like, okay, well, do you see that light colored, like so on and so forth, like that level of communication can definitely be key.
There is definitely a lot of that to be learned as a shooter spotter team, and over the years we've really worked at that. instead of me being extremely direct and saying XXX, working with Ann over the years as that team and the team matches, I've learned there are things that she can pick up quickly and where to go with those and how to apply those. And I cannot lose patience, because what I think might be instantaneous might not be for her. And the alternate is true. How she might see things and interpret them isn't how I'm going to see them. So we've really had to work through those on occasions, especially when we started. But I would say in the last several years, our communication skills are very good. Very good in the shooting world.
It was kind of like our marriage checkup. You know, when you go to a match, you see how you're doing based on how you communicated.
Yes.
Gotcha. I think our stream, they may only be getting sound right now. We might have lost it. So for those of you at home, it's difficult. We are literally in the middle of nowhere. So I'm going to try to jump over here to camera 1 here. So for everybody out there watching, sorry, we're kind of losing our signal. It's bouncing in and out. So I'd like to take this moment and thank everybody, all of the competitors. There were some spectators out here, and definitely Chaz and his family and Warhorse Development for putting this on, and specifically for allowing us as Recon Sniper Foundation. Both we have shooters that come out and get to participate and interact with folks like the Millers and some of the other competitors out there, but also to allow us to bring awareness to the foundation and some of the things we do. So please do us a favor, check out www.reconsniperfoundation.org. We definitely appreciate your support and your donations so that we can continue to help our teams get out there and participate with these really, truly amazing events, because just the level of skill and athleticism that is required with them. If you're interested in it, also reach out and check us out. We can help you get into the sport and connect you with people that can give you the right answers. And it was like Scott said earlier, you don't need to start with some $14,000 gun. I mean, you just heard from the Millers. They started out with 22s, these young ladies with 22s with sawed-off buttstocks so that they could actually get a good stock weld on the weapon system, and now they're holding their own against the adults at 1,200 yards. It's just absolutely amazing. So again, we appreciate you for tuning in and sticking with us throughout this live stream, and look forward to the next live streams that we're going to be bringing out. So thank you.
Anybody in this community can attest to the type of personality you need in order to excel at this job or just survive this job. It's a tough job. The community is built around that A type of personality. Do I enjoy running long distances like the Marine Corps Marathon? I wouldn't really say enjoy, but it's a very small price to pay in order to support the mission of the foundation and what we're trying to accomplish.